like your boots.
Ooh, look at those.
Thank you for joining us. Critical time for the children of Illinois. The Democrats in the General Assembly have been holding the school funding bill, SB 1, since May 31st. This is fundamentally unfair to our children, to our families across the state of Illinois. Our schools must open on time with the full appropriate amount of money for every child, every teacher in the state of Illinois. The Democrats and the majority are playing political games with our children's education. They seem to be intent on holding up school funding until August, when schools need to open, and they seem intent on denying days of education to our children to advance their own political agenda. This is wrong, fundamentally wrong and unfair. We've got to put our children first, our families first. We have low-income children, disadvantaged children, African Americans, English language learners, low-income families who are struggling here in the city of Chicago and across the state of Illinois, in Waukegan, in North Chicago, in Harvey, in Maywood, in Cicero, in Waukegan, in Aurora, in Moline, Peoria. They deserve more support. They need schools to open on time. They should not be denied a single day of education. We cannot allow the majority in the General Assembly to hold school opening hostage for their own political agenda. It is wrong and unfair for them to hold this school funding bill. There is no legitimate reason for that school funding bill to be on my desk right now. We have given them until noon today to send me SB 1, the school funding bill. If that bill is not on my desk by noon, we will be calling special session. Special session. We will ask everyone in the General Assembly, come to Springfield, do your job, pass school funding, and we have a deadline set of July 31st. There is no reason that we can't have school funding completed and signed off and done by July 31st, so our schools can open on time. Every school in the state of Illinois can receive proper support from the state, and every child in a low-income community, every child from a disadvantaged circumstance can receive a better education, a better future. Children in Englewood and Austin and Lawndale, and children in Cicero and North Chicago and Rockford and Decatur. With that, I will turn it over to Leader Durkin to address this as well, and then Senator Leader Brady.
Thank you, Governor. Starting next month, approximately 2 million children in 852 school districts throughout Illinois are to begin their school year. But let's be clear, the Illinois school funding system is antiquated and unfair. SB 1 does not fix the decades of problems with school funding, but rather worsens it. The Democrat leadership in Springfield, for no legitimate reason, has been holding SB 1 from the governor since the end of May. That is 54 days. The further they hold it, the more likely that the Democrats want to create and manufacture a school funding crisis. I want all schools funded fairly. I want all schools opening on time. And so does my caucus. We are going to open schools on time. The Democrats cannot stay silent on this issue. Send the bill to the governor. I'd like to turn it over to Leader Brady.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Leader Durkin, Secretary Purvis. 22 members of my Senate Republican caucus believe that the school children in their districts and the school children in every senator's district throughout the state deserve fair and equitable funding. The Senate Democrats rammed through a budget that relied on a new education funding model. We need a new education funding model, an evidence-based model that will create parity in funding for every student throughout the state of Illinois. That's what Secretary Purvis, Governor Ryan, Leader Durkin, and his caucus and my caucus are fighting for. So far, they've been void on presenting that evidence-based funding model to the governor so that we can make sure our schools open. The governor's absolutely right to demand Senate Democrats to send him SB 1 so that he can act and ensure that our schools stay open for the children and the parents that we represent. This is embarrassing. This is the time of year when parents should be buying backpacks for their students and supplies instead of worrying about whether or not the schools are going to be open for their children. Teachers are worried. Administrators are worried. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been long enough. Senator Colleton and the Senate Democrats need to send the bill to the governor. The governor is right to call a special session if they refuse to do so. This is a crisis that needs to be solved before the end of the month. Our caucus, my Senate Republican caucus, is ready and able to solve that crisis.
Again, all of us in public service should actually perform public service. Put the best interest of our children ahead of all else. Our children should come ahead of political games and political brinksmanship. There is a good, historic new school funding model, new school funding bill that is ready to be implemented. It was hijacked at the last minute by the majority in Springfield, and a poison pill was inserted to force payments to a pension system that's broken, unsustainable, and that needs reform. And we together should reform that pension system and help Chicago fix its pension problem. We should do that, and I've personally committed to that. That is a separate issue, fundamentally separate issue from treating our children as the priority they deserve to be and treating our teachers as the wonderful professionals who deserve our support and treating them the way they deserve to be. The new school funding formula is good. It was created on a bipartisan basis. I support it. I applaud the members of the General Assembly, Democrats and Republicans, who came together on a new school funding formula. We should implement it now. Separately, either now or sometime soon, we should deal with pensions, pension issues, pension reform for the city of Chicago and across the state of Illinois. We should do that. But in no way, at no time, should be money from the classroom for current teachers and our students be diverted, money taken from the classroom and given to a broken pension system. That should never happen. And that's what SB 1 does in its current form. When that bill does come to my desk, and I hope it comes right here this morning, I will amendatory veto that bill. I will remove the diversion of the money from the classrooms so the money can flow through the new funding formula that was arrived at on a bipartisan basis. That new funding formula helps the children of Chicago, just like it helps the children in Cicero and Waukegan and Aurora and Rockford. Separately, we should take up pension reform and pension assistance for the city of Chicago. That is good and right that we do that, but in no way should that hold up our schools opening on time. In no way should that take money from the classroom, from our neediest students, and divert it to a broken pension system. Our children must be treated as our top priority. Put yourself in the shoes of our parents around the state. They're anxious. They're anxious. They're struggling to make ends meet. They just got a massive tax hike put on them for nothing, for not even a balanced budget, for no reforms, no more job growth, no property tax relief. Their cost of living just went up. They're struggling to make ends meet. And now they don't even know if their school's going to open on time. They don't know if their child's going to receive the education they need. And they could have days of their education taken away. Our children, especially our most vulnerable children, our most disadvantaged children in our most struggling communities. They need to be treated with the top priority. That's what the new school funding formula does. That's why I've been an advocate for it all along. That's why it has strong bipartisan support. We can't let leaders in the Democratic caucus take a good bipartisan bill, subvert it, take money out of the classroom for a broken pension system that needs reform. That's what this issue is about. That's why we need your support to get the message out to the people across the state of Illinois. Let's do what's right. Let's get the bill, SB 1, to my desk so I can fix it with an amendatory veto. Get that implemented, separately deal with pensions, but make sure our schools open on time with the appropriate amount of money for every school district.
Are schools
Yes.
going to open on time?
We are going to do everything we can to make sure they do.
Is it just the pensions you object to, or is it the block grant also?
The bill would come to my desk. You wouldn't have to answer that question, ask that question. I'll be clear. I'm going to mandatory the veto quickly, immediately, and then have the General Assembly take it up, and we can deal with this in a matter of just a couple days. There is no reason we can't have it done. We need it on my desk, and you will see. They don't want me to be able to mandatory veto it. They want to create a crisis and just say, there's no discussion, there's no more time, there's nothing to debate, it's over. If schools want to open, only SB 1 in its current form. That's unfair to our children. That bill should have been on my desk June 1st, so we could deal with this and treat our children with the priority they deserve. They're playing political games with our kids' futures.
Senator Cullen's office says he wants you to sit down and meet with leaders down there and work out some kind of compromise on this. Is there any compromise to be worked out? Are you willing to meet with them?
There's always compromise. What they've done is have discussions go on for months and months and months. And we've compromised. Many ideas have been on the table. And out of all those discussions came a good new school funding formula. It's there, it's done, it's ready to be implemented.
Are you willing to
What's-
compromise on anything where you stand on this?
So what we need to do, what's clear, that bill passed the General Assembly. It should be on my desk. We can't have any rational discussions until that bill's on my desk. There's nothing really to discuss without that bill being on my desk. I will mandatory veto it, and from there they can discuss what the changes that I made, and we can implement either those, or if somebody else has another idea, that's fine. But without that bill on my desk, we can't really make any progress at all.
So will you meet with
Yes.
Democrats?
What about the other one that you're talking about? I mean, that wasn't a bill that was passed, was it? The one
Which other one?
The one that you were in favor of, the one that you were just discussing?
All I've said, there's other ideas, there's other bills that might be good, that's fine. SB 1 should be on my desk. There is no legitimate reason, none, for SB 1 not to be on my desk.
Because you're going to veto it, so.
There, you know what, how many bills have they sent to my desk that I was going to veto? That doesn't stop them. That doesn't stop them. They're playing political games. They want to create a crisis. They want to hurt our school children for their own political agenda in mid-August. That's what's going on. There is no reason for that bill not to be on my desk.
That if, even if it came back,
Yes.
they would back, they could actually do something. Is that an ISB analysis? Last week you talked about a number of factors going into this most recent analysis, and Secretary Purvis is here. Is it truly an ISB analysis?
The analysis you're talking about starts with data provided by the Illinois State Board of Education. The Illinois State Board of Education does not run an analysis unless the legislation has been introduced. What we did is we took the data that they provided every caucus about how to calculate an estimated analysis, combined that with what we think will be the mechanism for funding, and those are the numbers that you've seen.
So when will you call the special session? If they missed the deadline today, are we talking Friday, are we talking tomorrow? When will you call?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Governor, you were asked about a meeting with the leaders. You didn't actually answer. Would you meet with the leaders before a special session?
I am happy to have all kinds of discussions after the bill is on my desk. There is nothing to discuss. There is nothing to discuss unless that bill's on my desk. What they'll try to do is, as they've done for the last 2.5 years, obfuscate, delay, have excuses, come and spin false messages to you after some meeting. No. They passed a bill. Our schools can't open unless that bill or some other version of it becomes law. They are waiting. They don't want to have any real progress until August. They want a crisis. They want, frankly, like they want to have schools not open so they can force no real rational discussion or debate, just force SB1 in its current form. That's why we've got to have that bill on my desk this morning. And there's really nothing to discuss until that bill comes to my desk.
Governor, will Chicago schools be able to open if you do issue your amendatory veto?
Every school district's different. Every school district has different financial circumstances and conditions. But frankly, every child deserves to be treated equitably. And whether some school districts can open and others not, there's no reason that one single child in Illinois should lose a day of education over this pension bailout issue. That should not happen for any school district, irrespective of what community it's in.
Governor, if,
Yes.
as the backers say, no school district in the state would lose money under this,
Mhm.
and that some districts would in fact do better than Chicago, why is it imperative that money for Chicago be taken out before anything else can happen?
See, this is the misperception. This is the spin coming from the other side. Money is not being taken away from Chicago. Money under the current SB1 diverts money from the rest of the state and the suburbs to Chicago. We want to stop that. And then we want to help Chicago fix its pension problem and help Chicago have its pensions treated just like all the other pensions in the state. I've committed to that. It's the right thing to do. That's its own separate issue. We deal with that, and I've asked to deal with that for the last 2.5 years. So far, the General Assembly has refused to do it. But what should never happen is that money be taken from the classrooms, be taken from our kids in Austin and Englewood and Lawndale and Cicero and diverted to the pension payment. Money should not leave our children to go to pension payments. That's the critical issue.
Governor, if you call
Yeah,
special
Bill.
session, what'd you think of being called evil last week by Janet Griffin?
I'm sorry?
What'd you think of being called evil last week?
Political rhetoric gets heated sometimes, yes.
If you call a special session, aren't you worried that you'll be overridden again? I mean, it's an easier vote to say, I open schools on time than it was to raise taxes. That's the risk you're gonna run.
What we've got to have is the bill on my desk. I will quickly, immediately amendatory veto it. Then the General Assembly should take up my veto and we should put the proper position in place. The right thing to do is get schools open with the appropriate funding, and we've laid this out. Separately, we can, and we can do it this summer or some other time, fix the pension problem in Chicago and around the state. That needs to be done too, but that's got to be a separate issue. Yeah, Tony.
Besides the CPS money, would you change anything else in the bill?
That's the vast bulk of it. You'll see if they would actually deal with the reality and have the truth come, you could read my amendatory veto and you'll see what I'll do. That's what they don't want the truth. They don't want an open debate. They don't want this to be out in public because the truth is so bad for their position. They want to take money away from our low-income kids all around the state and divert it to a pension payment. That is just fundamentally wrong for our children. They don't want that known. That's what they're scared of. Yes, Kim.
Can you be more specific about what money you're saying is being taken out of classrooms and sent to CPS? My understanding is that there's a hold harm list, so every school district under SB1 as it is currently written, every school district would receive the same amount of money that they received in the previous school year.
So
What dollars specifically are you saying are being taken from those schools?
the General Assembly appropriated, I think, $720 million more for schools in the new budget. Awesome. Great. I'm all for it. I fought every year I've been governor for more money for our children, especially our low-income children. Let me draw a contrast to what was going on before I became governor. The majority in the General Assembly in the prior 10 years before I became governor, they cut state support for education 4 times in the prior 10 years. I've changed the paradigm. We're taking our children and making them the top priority in our budgeting, not making them political footballs. In the $720 million that should be going to the classroom, SB1, with the poison pill that got inserted by the Speaker and his majority, diverts hundreds of millions of dollars, almost about half of that money, diverts away from the classroom, goes to a pension payment. That money should go in the classroom for Chicago and all the other communities. That's the money I'm talking about. Somebody else had a question? Yes.
You've always said that you're looking for the best and the brightest.
Uh-huh.
Can you explain why you hired someone who has written about comparing abortion to Nazi eugenics?
Well, I can tell you this, I am committed to having the best staff we can possibly have. I do not agree with every position that anybody who's ever worked with me has ever taken. And I have my own views. I stand by my views. And to be crystal clear, I am a strong advocate for women's reproductive rights.
So there raises
Yes,
questions-
yes.
It raises questions about the vetting of your people that's going on beforehand, and you think that that would be something that would be picked up before somebody.
Yeah, I wish we were perfect. You know, we're not perfect. We're not perfect. I tell you this, there's been a lot of writing and talk about staffing. This is the tempest in the teapot. There's nothing changing. My positions have been clear. I am a strong advocate for the people of Illinois. I want to change our government so it actually works for people. We put our children and our families first. Political insiders, the privileged inside government, the folks who make their money from political power, we need to battle against them. And that battle is hard. That battle is stressful. That battle is demanding and it's draining. And frankly, sometimes we need fresh troops to engage in the battle, and that's what we've done. It's not, it signals no shift or change in my views, change what we're battling for. My whole life, and certainly the last 5 years, as I decided to become a public servant, as a volunteer, I've fought for 4 things, and I will not give up on 4 things. More jobs, lower taxes, better schools, and term limits on our elected officials to deal with this corruption and cronyism. These are the 4 things I've been fighting for 5 years and longer, not giving up and not changing one iota from that.
We have time for one more.
Governor, you keep talking about how you don't want to put more money into a broken Chicago public school system. Yet
Pension system.
pension system, sorry. But yet the budget that was just approved puts an additional $600 million into the statewide teacher pension. Everybody except Chicago, it's even more broken and has a much lower funded ratio.
So you're raising the correct issue. We need pension reform. I want pension reform.
You're not cutting off money to TRS, just only money to Chicago schools.
I have talked every day about the necessity for pension reform. Pension reform we need, and Chicago pensions should be treated like other communities' pensions. I have said that from day one. The reason this is a hot button, Greg, right now is what the majority in the General Assembly is trying to do is divert money from the classroom to fund Chicago pensions, money that should go to our communities in Lawndale and Austin and Englewood and Cicero and Waukegan and North Chicago and Aurora. They're taking it away from the classroom to fund a pension. I will never, ever allow that to happen because that is treating our children, as political pawns, and we will not allow that to happen. Thanks very much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Those are White Sox, sir.